kind of get what you're saying. Like, the longer I look at it, the less real it's starting to look. Like, I'm starting to see some weird things the more I look at it.
Oh, Sophia?
Yes.
Yeah, and we're talking about the picture that's up in OC?
Yeah.
Ah, I see. Okay.
Yeah, it disturbs me because it's like, it's a person, but it's not a person.
Yeah, it triggers the uncanny valley if you stare at it too long. Mainly because, one, we know the proportions are off, and two, with it being out of focus and yet it's specifically focused, it plays with the brain. But that's one of the many aspects that I've noticed about AI art anyway. But all that aside,
That and AI just cannot get hands right at all for some reason.
it makes sense. Our hands don't make any real sense in terms of design.
Yeah, if you ever see, like, someone had posted on, like, an art subreddit a while back, like, a bunch of portraits of characters from Lord of the Rings, and every single one of them's, like, the characters' faces and clothes look fine, and then you look at the hands and arms, and you're like, why are there other arms for fingers? And why do those arms have other arms for fingers? And why do they have so many joints on their fingers?
No, that's narcissistic design of the human anatomy. Just does not make sense. Why wouldn't we have multi-useful prehensile limbs? It would be far more efficient.
I mean, we used to have tails.
Well, yes, but imagine if your arm could move, was more of a tentacle, moving forwards and backwards with no loss of range of mobility. How much more efficient of beings we could be. Hey, could you pass me that? Sure, not a problem.
I don't know. I think I kind of enjoy not being an octopi.
There is that. So otherwise, how was everyone's time away? Having to muscle through the real life, the real world.
The weekend wasn't too bad, but also the days at the hospital weren't bad at all. Every other day,
Fair enough.
That about sums it up for me. The weekend wasn't bad. It was the little person's birthday weekend. Their birthday is today.
Well, happy birthday. How'd you tire him
Our
out?
child is 17.
Okay, so how'd you tire him out?
They just do their own thing. But the weekend Friday night was Sophia's show. Saturday morning we went to go see the new Black Panther. And Sunday the kid and I went to go see Hairspray. With local legend Nina West.
I have no immediate recollection of who that might be.
They're a drag queen.
Yep, no immediate knowledge of who they might be. Sorry.
But yeah, they're from Columbus. They were on one of the seasons of RuPaul's.
Fair enough.
But yeah. The child is very excited for the next two of the Columbus or the Ohio Theater's Broadway shows, which is 6 and then Beetlejuice.
So, all missives properly fired off and stalling for a little time. Here's a thought that I'm putting to you all, just to see where you guys are versus how I may or may not have responded perfectly balanced. So, and as you all are, and I'm sure, involved in the multiplicity of different discords when you have the opportunity. So between moments or when you're sitting down to chillax, which gives you the opportunity to speak at leisure or with a limited time on this little hobby of ours. So I have someone who mentioned to me that there is no reason for them to invest. Now, it's not exactly how they phrased it, but basically they design characters where they don't have to think and don't wish to invest themselves into the character's life, because it doesn't matter. All that matters is tossing dice and enjoying the story that the other characters are playing. It shouldn't matter whether they invest their characters with any semblance of authenticity, nor should they actually care, because if they care, then they'll care too much and then they'll create an issue. Having that as the caveat for a certain disposition in how things are managed, where would you all take that? What would you all take that to mean? Coming from another player.
So they don't want to invest in a character?
Correct. None of the boring, tedious stuff about having a reason for them to be involved in anything that their character is doing. Nothing for their characters to provide a hook towards or involving any other character or the storyteller NPCs or the DM's NPCs or SPCs. So a blank, stoic slate, stalker-esque, brooding in the shadows that is only there for the story, only there to listen to and take part of everybody else's stories and toss dice.
I'm going to go out on a limb and go, they like to have combat?
Yes. Yes, it is a it is a facet of every single solitary instance of them playing. In fact, to the point of finding ways to mechanize how they can be more effective at combat to the exclusion of almost everything else.
Well, I'd say you have to decide how much of that you want in your game. Somebody who's just there to roll dice and kill things.
Well, I would not exactly storytelling or game mastering from them. It was it was a philosophical debate about how one system differs from another and how and why should they, when every system is different, but it always boils down to just having fun and tossing dice.
Oh, well, I don't agree with that at all. But
I didn't. I try to not take it personal. It's not, what I mean by that is, like, it's such an antithetical ideal that you wonder how the conversations before then were survivable to get to the point of unveiling some measure of truth as to how they see things.
They're worried that they're going to get too invested.
That portion was a direct quote.
Okay.
I think maybe what they mean by that is they don't want to get too invested in a character only for them to, like, die.
I don't know. Those are the best moments, I think, when it matters.
Yeah, not dying because you happen to be at the wrong inn at the wrong time with the wrong former adventurer who decides to waylay the bar. No, nothing like a happenstance, a skillet falling off of a 3-story tall building. Nothing like that, but if there's some impact to the death or some impact to the character's life, I'm all for it.
So what I would wonder is, generally speaking, every character a person makes has some sort of the self imbued into it. What you wish you were, talents or skills you wish you had, little bits of yourself that you may not even remember or even realize are there. So I'm wondering if the unwillingness to invest in the character is a representation of being unwilling to invest in the self. And yes, I'm totally in therapy brain right now.
Well, that's a good thing. It does grant us the opportunity to view it from different perspectives, and I really do like that. Which makes me wonder as well, not knowing enough of the person to truly know what they're dealing with outside of the game world or outside of the occasional conversations. Like, you're not with someone, unless, of course, you're living with them. And even then, there's some people who are extraordinarily secretive. We've been living together for 7 years. Ha, you've just scratched the surface. You don't even know me. There are those individuals out there. But it's one of those where if you are unwilling or unable to invest some in-world verisimilitude to the character, then what are we doing? Like, it's not all punch, stab, shoot, depending on the game. There should be some measure of getting to know who that character was and who they've become through their actions of play. But that's, again, my philosophy on it. I want to see what you guys would think when having that conversation, having that put across to you. Like, it made me question, like, who even are you?
I guess to throw in my 2 cents, I don't necessarily think it's wrong to play that way. I don't think there's really a wrong way to play a role-playing game unless you end up not having fun doing so, or it ends up causing problems for the group. Then I think those are the only 2 times I would say I'd have a problem, per se. If someone wants to just enjoy the stories of other people, I think that's valid. I think it's just only an issue if their lack of investment becomes a problem for everyone else.
Okay.
So what I'm going to say to that is, with the whole lack of investment situation, if you are constantly in a situation with somebody and the storyteller asks you, so what are you going to do in this moment? And you come up with something, but then the other person is just like, yeah, I don't know. And that's their constant fucking answer. They don't know, or let me think about it. I mean, sometimes you genuinely just can't come up with something. But, like, if they are never, it feels like they're never participating. It feels like you're literally talking to a wall, or you're carrying the whole conversation with them, or like the 3 other players that you're playing with, or the 4 other players, however many other people you're playing with, everybody else can manage to come up with some small modicum of something to do in a scene, and then you got that one motherfucking person that's literally just fucking set dressing. That shit's irritating. If they're having fun, okay, cool, but it's dragging down the rest of it for everybody.
Right, it's a group effort, so why should one person have fun at the expense of everyone else, and vice versa?
Yeah, that was also part of my mental consideration. I didn't get a chance to voice it that way. Just wanted to make sure. Well, I was just gauging responses to see, was I more of an outlier or closer to the central ideal of our form of play, which is many hands makes the work light. Because I don't know about you all, but there have been some episodes where I have been so invested in finding out what happens next that at the end of it, after it's all said and done, you need that moment to decompress. Like you've been emotionally and mentally on this roller coaster of highs and lows, and or just lows and lows, or just highs and highs, and then after it's all said and done, you don't realize how much energy you've poured out and been awash in, how much effort of play that has taken place until after it's over and done, and you're sitting there and you're too wired to sleep and too sleepy to stay awake, and just that moment is brilliant for me, like having those moments. But it's an amazing amount of energy that's put out to maintain the investment in the world, to maintain the investment in the characters, and that's part of what I mean when I always thank you all for your energies. It's not just your mental energies and how you envision the character. Everything that we do here, for instance, is all in your mind. We're sharing this space, and that's a lot. It does take its toll on you in the real world after it's all said and done, and I appreciate that, and I understand it. Maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I'm just overthinking
it. I suppose another thing to take into consideration is it sounds like they are coming from like a heavy D&D type game where it's all about kill the monster, get stronger. There's no real investment in it unless you're with, specific types of groups who prefer the ROLE versus the ROLL.
I mean, I didn't want to throw stones at systems that are wholly designed for that, but
I totally will. It's fine. But I know it can be an adjustment for people who are just starting out or are transitioning to a different setting, even if they've been playing for a while. Like if they're just so stuck in the old style, it just gets complicated.
Fair. And a consideration that I hadn't completely worked into my thought process, mainly because I and this is an unnecessary dig, but it's a very truthful one. When playing a more tactical style of play, and that's not just D&D, but that's Pathfinder, and there's also Palladium and several others that mimic that style, is not as much direct work being done by you individually as a player. You show up, you have your stats, even if you have the pizza cutter background. My mother was killed before my very eyes, my father was beheaded by lions, my siblings were all run off by the 3 blind mice, or whatever, the dark twisty nightmare of a background that your character has. It's a little less lifting. It's a little less breathing in the character's skin.
Meanwhile, my Tuesday night D&D group will spend an entire episode going shopping.
Oh, Jesus.
See, I don't know. I guess it's just weird for me because I grew up with so many different roleplay backgrounds. Like, I played AOL and AORG. So that was, you still had dice, especially when you had like an assassination or you were fighting a battle, you had dice. But for the most part, it was roleplay. And then I learned to play Dungeons and Dragons and enjoyed it for what it was, but I still was more roleplay heavy with Dungeons and Dragons and the actual combat stuff. Murder hoboing is fun and all, but I still enjoyed the story more than the actual having to remember stats and spells and all this other kind of crap. So I guess, it's never stuck for me to be very stats based. The whole min-maxing thing, and because I used to have a fight with my former DM, who was also my, at the time, boyfriend, because he was very much min-max. He was like, your character could be doing this, and this, and I'm like, but what's the fun in that? If I walk into every situation with, I'm gonna beat everybody's ass, that's It's not fun for me. And he's like, yeah, but your character's so cool and you could be doing it. I'm like, look, just let me play my fucking character the way I want to play my character.
You ever
I'm
seen
not
Dorcas
greedy.
Rising? The gamers
best.
Dorcas Rising. That your story just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
I did not. I will seek it out, actually. Sounds...
Oh,
It
dude,
is
it's hilarious.
hilarious,
It's every D&D game you've ever been in.
but better.
Okay. We like the better part of it, definitely. So, long way round. Here we are. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for taking this time and all the time that we've had before and getting to know who these characters are and getting to know you as well. It means a lot, as you can tell by me having the occasional, far too often but not completely regular philosophical conversation with others in our wide community in regards to play. It means a lot. It significantly means a lot. And thank you. But as we are a little bit past our hard start, and we left our characters in a relatively precarious situation. It's not one that they have not been in before. Maybe not to this particular magnitude, maybe not with these particular stakes, but they have been behind enemy lines often enough, whereas it's probably where they feel most accustomed to existing. They have been behind the 8-ball significantly enough that they know from memory how it might respond or react to what they might do. They have been embattled nearly non-stop since their embrace into this world of darkness. Having been on the outside or never accepted into certain realms of the society and the community, being hunted in one shape, fashion, or form is the rigueur. Being the subject of something else's and someone else's ire. It's just the average every day for them. They could do it in their sleep. What changes that standard of being for them in the now is that the very thing assaulting them is the very thing keeping the worst sorts of shadows from assaulting them at the same time. Miriam has recently divested herself of the presence that lived inside her and grew with her emotions and began to slowly co-opt their waking moments. Hester realizes how deep the well of spiritual energies and all of those with claims to it goes. And the feeling of familiarity of this presence assaulting them is unshakable. Sophia understands that there's a give and go and there's a balance of power, and she always should be at the top of that heap, even when dealing with forces so in orders of magnitude larger than her average thrall. There should still be a way to wrest control and dominate whatever that presence is. And Lucio, months on end, he has labored under the weight of something else using him as home. Months on end, there's been an unseen, unfelt presence in and around everything that he's done. Almost as if someone placed a remote control camera, a remote viewing portal inside of him. It's a funny thing that he hadn't thought of it in that manner before, but due to everything else that's been swirling, it's been relatively innocuous, but it's still there. Now, normally, from what he's able to understand from experiences and just the few bits of information that filtered through the coterie, There's always a cost for such things. There's always a price that is paid. There's always something that gives it away. It shifts the balance of power. Yet whatever this presence is that has taken up residence inside him, it has not done anything to require address. It has not acted on him in any visible manner, making it easier to ignore it than to take the pains and efforts to be free of it completely. It's funny what you think about when you're trapped in a foxhole with your coterie members, with a presence assaulting the very foundations of the spiritual borders of the haven. There's a lot, but the coterie has grown accustomed to dealing with a lot, having so many plates spinning that they forget exactly which one might fall. And yes, this is a very, very long way of saying that this is officially Soup City Sins Season 18, premiere episode, The Morning Will Come. We'll begin with those thoughts swirling. We'll begin with the real last stand feeling falling across the coterie. The presence of whatever that actually is, whether what they believe is true is, or whether it's something else in the myriad of wonderings of possibility that is assailing and assaulting the shelter. There's a feel that a misstep could cost them greatly. There's also the feel that standing still won't ever allow them to get to their goal. There are kindred out there in the night, depending on what they do to either continue existing or worse. So we'll begin anti-alphabetical as you all make it inside the border and boundary of the actual haven. As you all are safely ensconced through the hidden door in the office into the haven proper. And the feel of that pushing and testing the boundaries that is happening outside. The sound of skittering feet and the one word echoing almost indecipherably through the ether.
Well, I suppose I will look at the others and hiss out, "What did you do?"
Don't look at me. I wasn't here when they did it.
Technically, yes, you were. Because remember that little black flame that happened when Miriam set the fucking infirmary on fire? This came through that flame and that fire. So technically, yeah, you were. But what happened was Miriam got rid of her little hangers-on, the Pirate King and his little girlfriend, in exchange for this thing. It's kind of taken a liking to her, a little bit protective of her, and then the flame was talking to me and made me do a thing I probably shouldn't have done, which was put her hand in the fire with my hand. So now it's a little pissed off, I think.
Sophia will cuss a lot in Italian.
Hestia, what the fuck?
Are we what the fucking about what? Like the putting the hands in the fire thing, or the fire in the first place?
Yes! To both.
Miriam
Would it
will
be
shrug And it's like,
A
well,
little
you said it was a problem.
contrite if I said the devil made me do it. Because kind of that's what it feels like. It's in the back of my head. It said, touch the fire, touch the fire. And I didn't want to touch the fire, but then it made me touch the fire, and then that happened. But I do have a small thought.
This is why people should not mess with things they do not understand.
Well, I didn't know she was bringing that through the damn fire into my damn shelter. I was dealing with the bodies that somehow or another got left behind when that whole shootout in the front happened. Or did we forget that thing? So, for Sepulus, you still have his number, don't you?
Yes. Why? You want him to try and eat this thing?
Well, he can't eat himself. That's weird. This is part of him. This is the other part of him.
So you want me to call him to reclaim the other half of him?
You got a better idea? Because obviously we can't kill that thing or try to fight it.
It needs to be appeased. When you reach through into the other world, having made yourself its fetter, you threatened your own existence in its eyes. And now it has come to protect you by destroying everything.
Okay, so how do we appease it then?
I don't know, it's not my demon.
Promise to never do it again.
What did you give it to create it?
I don't know what she done.
Pictures. Very nice pictures.
So maybe burn another picture then?
Oh, maybe I have
Very
been,
able
since I'm the
scout.
one that kind of pissed it off that I gotta give up something I really like. So...
It is worth a try. It may take blood, we don't know that.
I need my blood. Anyway, give me a second. And Heska is going to run for the library. Not just the everyday library. She's going to go to the older library, the special books.
She's running to the assorted collecting scrolls, grimoires, and journals. Is she making a sacrifice of them?
Not all of them, but just one that she's committed to memory already. And
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
one that she loves but not loves as much as the other ones.
Value for value, what would that buy you? I love it, I like it, but I like this one more. One of the many philosophies
It's still
that,
knowledge. It's still books.
yeah, but it means, but it
doing
relatively means nothing to Diva. But relatively means nothing to Hestia, and as such, it means relatively nothing in exchange. Equivalent value, remember?
Whatever it is, it needs to be fed. You throw it the scrap, perhaps it will go away. Does not mean it will not come back later for more scraps.
Can we throw it the spirit that's possessing me too? Maybe that'll help it.
Only if that spirit was a threat to Miriam. It's my estimation, we would have to give it something that is valuable to the person making the offering, or perhaps blood, or we will just have to beat it into submission. Which would be my first choice if I had any inkling why, because it is the Rossellini way.
Do you think you can?
Like I said, if I had an inkling of how to do so.
Well, the problem is, it doesn't like lupines, but neither do we, so we're agreeing on that. But that's the only ever thing I've ever seen it chase it away is the lupines.
So, does it have to be specifically Hestia that offers something, since she's the one that angered it, or can it be any of us?
Out of character, it would have to be Hestia and Sophia's knowledge, right?
Yep. The threat must be ameliorated.
She's thinking for a minute and kind of rubbing at her. You know what? I thought of something. Remember Forsythia used to say that it preferred to hunt spirits and rogue specters, which is why Blue fucking hated him and wanted to stay the fuck away from him?
Yes.
That's what we can use. You need somebody that can call a spirit that would be equivalent enough for it to feed upon and be appeased by it. So it doesn't necessarily need to be blood specifically, but spirit, yes.
So we could feed him, what, Woseek, Mama Cass?
The thing possessing me.
Well, I'd like for the thing possessing you to be gone, so technically we could do that. But what is the meaning for me? How is it something that's special to me?
So it has to, you're saying it has to be a spirit that's tied to you?
Her face falls for a minute, because there's only two spirits she can think of that mean anything to her at all. Equivalent exchange. How bad do we want rid of this thing? That's the thing. We have to give it an equal measure of what we're willing to take. So, whomever step forward for me, I'd be.
All right, I know how to solve this. These are the things I need, and I need them quickly. But she'll start barking off things she needs, whatever they are.
Excuse me. Bear with me one quick second. Just need to check one little minor, just one small minor little thing, and then we are off to the races. Because as everyone is talking, and as Hestia is putting one and one together to find the missing piece of this puzzle, And certain truths began presenting themselves to her passive thought. Sophia begins asking for items, ingredients, things that, well, there's no other way to say it. Spell components, ritual components to be more exact and more precise.
Lucio will run off to try and help find those things.
And as Lucio begins to find the ingredients, some of which should not be present, but do Hestia and Alex's former time here, they are in and around the building and Hestia's labs. The plants, the bits of filing, the bits of iron, the ash and salt, all of those things are relatively easy enough to find. Sorry, looking for one small bit of information because I had jotted it down earlier and moved it to him. Saying, I'll put it here so I'll never forget it. Guess what I forgot?
You know.
I'll move it here. I'll never forget it.
Self-fulfilling doom prophecy.
Yeah. It requires bits and pieces from a smashed mirror, the silver that was part of ancient mirrors being the effigy needed, the salt and ash, the rusted filings from coal-fired iron, the several plants which pretty much are dogwort and pretty much a derivative of ginger, one of the several other flowering versions. All of those things being gathered and laid as ascribed and assigned by Sophia. It is clear on the initial surface that what she's forming has been witnessed by you all in other instances, though previously in various other versions of this required chain or ironworks. And it is no stretch of the imagination as you all begin gathering everything and moving them into the rooms, the morgue where you all are. It looks familiar. But as it looks familiar, all the same, Miriam, as you are watching Lucio, and I'm taking it that you're helping him accumulate all of the necessary bits and bobs and small pieces of whatever this grand working ritual are. There's some
absolutely.
There are some things that are the same no matter how large or how small. And the balance between what is being done here and the images that danced just inside your vision-racked mind, danced just inside of your possessed intellect, are remarkably similar. Though there's more of them and it's over a larger space and span of time, it seems familiar, seems similar. That sort of undertaking. And while all of this is happening, and knowing some of what that means, Hestia, is there anything that she is doing, assisting, helping, hindering?
Mostly right now she is trying to decide who she would give up to that sort of torture, because she knows what's going to happen to the spirit she offers up is going to be horrible. And if this is somebody that she cared anything about, why would she do this? It's that she's thinking about the fact that this person that she's going to have called forth and offer up as a sacrifice is going to be meet a horrible end and be destroyed, as it were. So she is deciding, trying to figure out who she'd be willing to even offer up like that. Like, you're on a boat and sinking. Do you save your sister or do you save your brother? Which one? That's where her head is. I mean, she knows she has to make a choice soon, but that's kind of... she's pacing and thinking.
Okay. And as those thoughts are happening for Hestia and the contemplation of such, Sophia, now that most of everything has been gathered and you're coaching Vittoria as to how to arrange the sigils, and as Felix watches a small light frown as he makes himself useful, but it's clear that his focus is all about you, because the first time in the shelter, first time being in this space, it is impossible to not, well, for those who have eyes to see and senses to understand, the full roar of energies flowing through. It's like being the first person to discover the Mississippi without having ever seen an ocean. The amount of sheer force and power at its widest portion as it flows through what is now, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, and so forth and so on, where it is just a supreme manifestation of the force of nature. Just the roar of it as it moves past you and feeling extraordinarily small. It's like setting eyes on the ocean for the first time. Water as far as the eye can see, and knowing that there's nothing you can do to control it. You can either be carried away by it or merely bow to its strength. That's what he's experiencing here in the shelter. This is the wellspring for several different ley lines, dragon roads. This is very truly the center of a vast potential of possibility and probabilities. And it's hard to not feel small. It's hard to not be in awe of all of that power, close enough to touch and close enough to destroy.
That begs another question, because remember, Hess fixed her wards for the most part, so non-welcome kindred should feel uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So is he feeling that weird, uncomfortable edge?
Impossible to tell with the amount of potential stamina he has, with the amount of darker workings he's been privy to and party to. The awe is definitely there. Mixed in could there be any amount of pain or inner suffering It is not impossible to be at both ends of that spectrum in one fell swoop. And as you take everything in, as everything is being aligned and amassed, there is one final aspect that Sophia needs. She needs an effigy. She needs a image.
It's a shame we don't have an artist handy.
I've burned enough artwork tonight, thank you.
It's fine. I have a picture, and unbeknownst to the rest of the coterie, because for the longest time she didn't really keep much here. She goes into the back office in the morgue, and they hear like file cabinets open and closing and ruffling of papers. And she comes back with a black and white picture. And in the black and white picture is a handsome man that looks similar in skin tone to her, maybe a little darker. Tall, he's smiling, his hair is kind of Ricky Ricardo, like combed to the side. He's wearing like a button-down short sleeve plaid shirt and some like chino type pants. It's very clear what time period he's from, like early 60s era kind of thing. And he's standing next to a really nice shiny car from that time period, with a rag in his hand because he just recently washed it. And what looks like there was another part to the picture torn off. There's like the corner of a little, like it looks like a dress maybe, but you can't tell completely what was torn away from the picture. So there's just a man standing. And she walks over and very slowly hands it to Sophia, but it's like so much hesitation in handing it over to her. I'm sorry, Poppy. Forgive me, okay? And then she hands it over and walks away.
Is that a thing that will work?
That is a thing that will work. And as Sophia begins putting things together mentally to prepare herself more properly, a sudden stroke occurs. One stone, two birds. Well, it is not a difficult thing for her, and it's not an impossible thing. It is significantly higher than easy. She needs Miriam to sketch out on top of the picture using Vitae, Sophia's own, of course, as that's, in her understanding, the most powerful and potent Vitae present. She would like a sketch, a specific sketch, and as the thought materializes in her head, does she complete that second portion, or does she make that request?
If that's what she needs, then yep, she would definitely make the request. Also, I just rolled a 10 on the rouse check, which is important.
Oh yes, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just, it's fine. It's fine.
Gotta love those oblivion powers.
If you, Miriam, could sketch me a centipede upon this photograph. And then she will hold the photograph out towards her.
It is an odd request, not one that you find or are presented with often. Usually, it would be a never. But you're being asked to make a small work of art using Sophia's own vitae, Miriam. The question is, does she acquiesce? Does she do so?
Let's see. We know that the thing outside that's trying to, for lack of a better term, protect me is in a centipede form.
Yes. That's an easy leap of logic.
Get to my right folder. I keep out of habit going to my schoolwork stuff. It's crazy. So I think what Miriam would do because she has been mulling this over and doesn't want, sacrifice anyone that has any meaning, real or imagined, barring, her unwelcome guests. So what I think she would do instead of using Sophia's blood is using her own ink on the back of it, saying, "I am safe," and just hand it back.
And she writes, "I am safe."
Yes.
And she does not use the ritual component of Sophia's blood.
Correct.
Okay.
Sophia will sigh and roll her eyes and then try to draw a centipede with her blood. Assuming that doesn't have to be like Michelangelo artist quality.
No, but equivalent exchange is always a factor. And as you do so, your total that you need to roll at this point is going to be your resolve plus oblivion and DC 3. It would have been 2, but you don't have enough attributive help. Partial raises the power and directs the bulk of it where it needs to go. Anything less, and well, It's amazing what starts small. Trees, people, animals, everything starts small. Everything starts with that first initial step, that first, after deciding to do a thing and initiating the act of doing it. That small, key, intrinsic difference makes all the difference in the world. And as the sigils and glyphs are placed, as the sacrifices are prepared, as the well of emotions and borderline fear washes over everyone, even with the altering of the spell in some facet by Miriam, there is an expectation that there's something large, something visible, something big will happen that you'll notice, then you'll know that things are moving in the right direction. As Sophia chants initially what sounds like a self-actualization. Slow and breathy and clearly meant for the powers within her and solely for herself, and as her voice goes through the motions, because you realize that's what it is, her voice has no real weight to it, there's no breathiness, there's no life to it, there's the absence of life, and her skin grows paler. You can see the non-working veins beneath that almost translucent skin. Her eyes fall towards grayness, looking as if she's developing cataracts, which you realize is an approximation of what her eyes would have looked like upon her lying in the ground. What her eyes would have looked like with her spark of existence, her spark of life completely gone. As she ages moment by moment, her hair grows a little thinner and longer. Her fingers look 5 to 7 decades older than what she has present. The room grows darker, the only real light being the fire, black and ominous. And all things start small. So all of those small, minuscule things individually mean nothing. They show nothing. They prove nothing. It's as the chanting reaches full voice, somewhere around 7 minutes into it. It's as that full voice begins to reverberate off the walls, somewhere around 10 minutes into it. As that fire grows from briefly candle-sized flickering embers to what looks like a fireplace opening into hell. And the chill and the feel of the power inside, as well as that abutting it from the outside, merges and melds into one force. Merges and melds into one feeling. And at the apex of Sophia's ritual, Sophia's chanting, you all can hear, see you around, baby girl, before all of it crashes like a dam breaking and the energy rushes through the building without sweeping you all out to sea, but letting you know the full weight of the energies surrounding you. And then nothing, just silence. No skittering feet on the outside, no echoing throughout. Also, no prickling of energies abrading the skin. You all are not sure how you know what it would feel like, but you know what Silvio felt the few moments where he and Sophia hugged. You know what Silvio felt being surrounded by the promise of Sophia's potential. You know what it's like to be inside Sophia's better graces. You know what it's like on such a fundamental level. You are sure that your mind has been temporarily replaced, or at least a portion of your mind and heart have been temporarily replaced with Silvio's. Although that's impossible after all, isn't it? As the embers no longer light the morgue, Sophia's voice is no longer echoing off the walls, and the force of energies around you have stabilized. There's no buffeting, there's no pushing, there's no pulling, there's no crawling along the skin. It is a cold, dead thing about you, still present, but as warm as a wet blanket, as firm as a limp noodle, as active and vibrant as only the truly dead can be.
Sophia will look over slowly at Felix.
He smirks.
Hess doesn't say anything to anybody. She's there and then she's turning away, and all you hear after that is the shutting and locking of a door.
He looks after Hestia as she leaves. Quick, soft frown, and then back, his normal smirk, sitting in place. Bravissima, Pedro. Very well done. I did not believe that it was possible.
She will smirk back at him. Look at Vittoria, tell her to get the car ready. We'll look at the others and say that I need to perhaps have a short meeting with Dusable before we meet with the Primogen and Prince tomorrow. If that could be arranged, I would be most amenable.
Mir, just nod. I will get a hold of him.
I'm gonna go check on Hestia.
She meant Tremere. Dusable. I'm not sure how we're pronouncing it here.
Yes. Dusable and Decibel. Decibel being the Voivod of the South, and Dusable being the regent of regions for the Tremere.
Dusable's the one that killed Silvio, right? Or that was the other guy, Demetriski.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't need to meet with Dusable. I need to meet with Dusable. And then, assuming that there is still time, we will alight to wherever Felix wanted to go.
As you all leave, Miriam finds space for herself. For the first time in a very long while, enjoying the peace of freedom of thought, freedom of emotion. There's something eerily unsettling about the lack of light, about the lack of energy prickling along the skin. There's something immediately claustrophobic about knowing that there might be things in the shadows. It is decidedly unwelcoming. While as Lucio goes to look for Hessia, finding the door closed, the latch clearly thrown.
Lucio knocks on the door.
Takes a couple seconds, but then the door gets unlocked and she opens it, and there are very clear reddish pink stains down her cheeks. Her eyes are still glassy, and she just kind of looks up at him. So what are we doing now?
Don't worry about that yet.
You can't not worry about it, because despite the fact that that was scary and a problem, there are still other problems. Like getting Vivi out of DuSable's hands before tomorrow night. Deciding what the fuck we're gonna do if we end up going back to being Towerites.
Yes. How are you right now?
I just gave my father's spirit to a thing that eats spirits. How do you think I am?
Can't even imagine.
Without great risk, there is no great reward. Equal and opposites. Whatever the fuck that is. I'm so tired right now, but we have to keep going. So did the thing you left to do get done?
Yes, I took care of it.
Well, at least something's going right tonight. I know the shitty thing, though. It's all shitty, but you still didn't get your ghost out of you. Oh God, what are we gonna have to do that? Like who are we got to kill somebody? I bet, like the president or something, and then that means like we'll be haunted forever, just to get rid of the spirit inside. Do you know that Ballard is still out to get us? Yeah, that's a thing that's going on. But who cares, right? We might not live past tomorrow night.
Lucio doesn't say anything in response. Instead, he puts his arm around Hestia, trying to make a gesture of comfort.
There's something unbelievably weighty about that. The moment that you two touch, that comfort and succor is offered. For the first time since the quieting of the energies about you, you will feel safe. For the first time since the quieting of the moment, you will feel safe.
I know it's like cliche to say this, but it's quiet. Too quiet. You don't feel that. Or lack of that.
I know, it's... We're not really used to these quiet moments, are we?
No. But I have a phone call I think to make. I heard what Sophia asked for. And that's, I guess, the least I can do right now. So, I will reach out to him and see if I can get her a meeting. Instead of using a cell phone, though, she's going to use a landline.
Thank you, Hestia.
Where's she going to use the landline? Is she going up to the office?
As she is about to go make the phone call, she skids to a halt and turns to look at Lucio. Fuck. Fuck.
What's
I
wrong?
don't believe I was that fucking stupid. What did Blue tell us we were going to have to do to protect ourselves? That one of us was going to have to attune to the shelter, which would require a sacrifice. I sacrificed just now, but I wasn't the one whose blood ran the spell to attune to the fucking shelter. That's why it feels quiet.
Does that mean Sophia...
I don't know if it's permanent or not, but she used my sacrifice of my father's spirit to not only chase away Force Superius, but to attune herself to the fucking shelter. Which is why that's fucking snake Felix was smiling.
Well, damn. That's... Oh, shit.
As Lucio says, oh shit, we take a small moment and look back over the coterie's history, specifically when they sat down with Don Castiglione. I am not going to kill you. You're going to give it to me willingly. I am going to make your lives, your existences so problematic that the only way for you to win is for you to willingly sacrifice it to me. And then Dizzy launches into him, getting anger up in the air and causing the moment to crash to a complete close. It's one of the many things about vainglorious individuals. They have no problems telling you what they want, even if they lie about it later. They have no problem tooting their own horns and revealing their master plan in advance. Because for them, for their way of thinking, it's a foregone conclusion. They will be the ones reaping the benefits of their plan. That they have outsmarted everyone, they have plans for everyone, they are able to outthink everyone. Sometimes being right doesn't mean being right. Sometimes being accurate is not being accurate. And in the balance of things, the value, the equivalent exchange means a lot. Sophia, as you all think about the fullness of what she did, she sacrificed Hestia's love that Hestia gave willingly. She sacrificed the enmity of Forcipulus and his willingness to do anything to protect his fetter, his tie to this world. And he did so willingly. His strength, its strength, was what kept it from tearing things asunder and breaking through the border and boundary, because it swore to protect its fetter. It would do anything to protect its connection and its pathway into the world, including self-immolation. Hence the reason why the fire grew and swelled and then dissipated. And it was willingly done. As the puzzle unravels itself, all of its secrets tossed up for easy perusal, realizing what took place and how it happened. Lucio, willing to do anything to protect his coterie and the haven, to secure their escape, because there are other things out there in the night that he would much rather attend to, willingly attaining all of the spell components. Hestia willingly giving up her love, and Miriam unwilling to sacrifice her principles, throwing the only roadblock in the way, which was quickly overwhelmed. There's a cost to doing business. Sometimes the cost isn't the true value of a thing. And as Hestia and Lucio come to grips with what that value might actually have meant to them, Where does that place us? What is Miriam doing at this moment, having returned, having settled into the morgue, having had the opportunity to think for themselves? And what does Hestia and Lucio do or think, considering they now have a significant amount of information?
So just to clarify, the little black flame is completely gone.
Yeah, she realizes that the morgue is darker than it should be. That black light did toss off illumination. There is no lumens of light outside of the electric lights. There are no flickering flame-like emanations. It's gone.
The tears have dried up fairly quickly, replaced with anger. Killing her won't get it back, so we can't kill her. I don't know what to do. I thought I was doing the best thing for us in protecting shelter, and I gave up my father and let her fucking hate to think that I have been fighting for decades to keep safe. Time is sunrise.
Lucio looks at his watch to check.
It's because I think I'm done. I think I'm done.
S. No. S.
I am so done.
This is not the end. Okay? I know it looks bad. I know we've failed, but that doesn't mean it's the end for us.
Miriam, leave the morgue and go wander about to Hestia's room. No.
Oh, I thought we were still downstairs. We had left the morgue because we had just discovered that Sophia attuned to the
Down the
haven.
hall toward the office is where Miriam would find herself, knocking on the door inside, of which is Lucio and Hestia. Hearing that knock, polite and discreet, what is it that Lucio or Hestia might do, if anything?
Come on in. We're trying to figure out what the fuck to do now that we've lost everything.
You noticed too. I was about to say, I think we have a problem.
It's funny though, because like I've heard of carjacking. Like, what is this considered? Like landmark jacking? Or shelter?
Don't you have a contract with Capone?
I don't know how this is going to affect that, because technically the loophole, the way around it was us gifting I don't know. I guess I could call him and try to find out what the fuck can be done, but I think it might already be too late.
But we didn't gift her the Haven.
We gifted her the power to attune to the Haven because she was an honored guest.
Well, he at least perhaps knows more. And there's always this grimoire that Decibel wants. That might have some answers.
You mean in the other voivode once?
Yes.
Wasn't it the question, should I have called Dusable? Should I call Dusable and tell him anything? Because she wanted me to call her Dusable, so do I not call Dusable?
Calling Dusable has
to
nothing
array
to
for
do with
BB?
this. He wants to arrange a meeting so that he can potentially free Vivi.
Okay, so she uses the phone in the downstairs office where they are, so because she doesn't feel like going all the way up the stairs, and dials the number she had for Capone first on the little business card that he left her the last time.
And as Hestia picks up the phone to call, we shift our gaze to a dark, stereotypically black on black SUV limousine moving through the city streets. There is an unparalleled amount of glee emanating from Felix. There is an huge amount of sheer wattage wafting off him. Not spiritual energy, not something esoteric, not the emanations of his aura. No, they're just simple emotional wattage. He has never before witnessed that level of chicanery be successful. Social magic was he and View's thing. They being literally two parts of one soul made their attempts to befuddle, bemuse, sometimes amaze others all the easier, especially in social engagements. He has never before witnessed this chicanery of this level and this magnitude reach any modicum of success. And it's clear that he would like to say something, but he, thanks to decades of decorum and etiquette, is holding himself, simply rubbing his thumb against his forefinger as he watches the world go by as Victoria wheels the vehicle through the city towards his destination.
I gather from your demeanor that you feel that your faith, your decision to lend your strength to mine, you feel is very well placed now.
Oh, I do. In comparison to the previous painter, Don Castiglione, and his lovely wife, I must admit, I did not believe that it was possible. I did not believe that anyone could arrange such a betrayal.
At the moment they were willing to negotiate on the Hakata's behalf in a matter that concerned me shelter in such an intimate way, they opened the door for me, did they not?
Yes, I suppose it is true. The old saying of a little sunshine will do all that a mighty wind cannot. You managed to have them remove their jacket. You managed to have them let their guards down. But equivalent exchange being what it is, what are you actually going to repay them to keep all of that karma from falling in your direction? To trip you up when you least needed? To keep Kismet from seeking her revenge?
I'm going to give them their freedom once again. To have them reinstated in the tower. No longer wards of the Akata.
But wouldn't that be a death sentence? Spirits talk and all, and not to say that I may have accidentally reached out to other members or a few pages this side of the grave, but isn't it a death sentence for them if you don't mitigate the fallout? It's a good way to tie things up, a nice, neat little bow. However, again, Kismet does come back.
I don't believe they have really committed any offenses that were not my doing. But I understand that grudges are grudges.
Oh, I wasn't speaking of grudges. I'm speaking of, well, the young little Lasambra everyone believes is a Bruja that helped the raid against Don Castiglione. The little assassin who has managed to hold out for nearly a week now. And it's only so long before eventually the Tremere will have their way and be released to use accelerated interrogation standards, and no one can hold out forever. I'm sure the secret of her parentage, while they were still upstanding members of the tower, won't be held against them too harshly. It's not as if there's a powerful, near the centuries old blue blood who has it out for them.
Oh, I plan to walk away with her as well.
Oh, really? How might you do that? How can you convince them that their scapegoat, their little assassin of the former pater, is in fact innocent of the charges? Wrong place, wrong time.
First of all, we do not any longer see it as a crime against the Hakata. He was a cancer that needed to be cut out, and so he has. In fact, we thank them for their assistance in this matter, unbeknownst to them that it was something that needed to be done, as an agreement with the promise. At the same time, I have something that Dusabal wants very much.
And what do you think that might be?
Information.
Oh.
I am to understand that they had one Tremere who had any sort of advanced knowledge of the spirit world. That person is no longer with us. They're on the other side of the shroud. Not only could I bind her to something that would make it easier for them to contact her, but I might be willing to teach one of them, preferably Hestia, all about the spirit world, short of our arts, of course. That would never share that with them. But a greater knowledge of the spirit world might allow her to glean out some of the blood sorcery that this lost Tremere might have done.
Interesting. Interesting indeed. There are coups, rebellions, revolutions, and changing of the guard.
And then we use this Vivi to cross the shroud and solve the Wosik problem once and for all.
Oh, really? Now that has my interest. As you know, the cabal that I represent, I've always had a certain enmity for Pater Castiglione and his family.
We have much more in common than we originally thought.
Yes, well, he is the one who riled up the Dustborn, who were trained by Sylvia, who were taken over by that new Dustborn Force, whatever his name is. And most importantly, he is the one who had been backing several coteries throughout the south suburbs to stave off Geneva and now the Voivode Decibel. The Voivode Alba is no gentle man, but he is a gentle person, if that makes sense, considering all that he might have brought against the world. His idea of conquest all about perfection and timing. But be that as it may, what is mine is now, of course, yours, and as such, I would like to introduce you to Casa Felix. This is my abode when I and you sneak away from our responsibilities as senators and advisors. This small, humble, and he makes a wave toward the Greystone. The Greystone is one of 9 original Greystones built throughout the Chicagoland area, because during the period in which it was built, it was literally just the Chicagoland area. Millionaire's Row was absorbed into the fabric of Chicago, but initially was not actually actively part of Chicago. It was close enough to the city to affect it, and far enough where, well, you could a man and a woman, well, at that time, a man could just have land for his dream home. And as the city expanded and absorbed Billionaire's Row, and it became Millionaire's Row, this is one of the original Greystones. This is one of the original, what had become eponymous with Chicago Greystones that was built. It is 3 stories tall, above ground. An additional one actually with a full foundation beneath. There are over 20 rooms inside, 20 full-sized Victorian era rooms. And as you can tell, even from this distance, it has a number of servants that are no longer living, abounding the property interiorly and exteriorly. Might I offer a more pleasing welcome? Have you had Spectre wine? It is made of their vitae, made of their ectoplasm, and it is absolutely delicious. It is fortifying, and, well, you have the opportunity of absorbing all of the emotions that they no longer have, that keep them here, able to cross the shroud at my beck and call. Now yours.
I have heard of such a thing, but I do not believe I have ever partaken.
It is absolutely delicious. And as Victoria opens the door and scans the block and makes sure you guys are free from surveillance and potential interdiction, Felix waits for you to exit, following closely along behind you. The moment you touch the wrought iron gate, it all comes due. It is true that the emotions of those spirits bounding the property have kept it relatively well maintained. However, there is a cost for doing business. And as you touch that gate, as you touch that boundary and that border, would you be so kind as to go ahead and make your remorse roll? You have a total accumulation of 3 stains thus far. And while that's happening, back inside the morgue, as you reach out to call Dusable, while Hestia makes the call, is there anything else that Lucio or Miriam are discussing as she settles in to make the call?
Miriam will settle back and lean against the wall. Lucio, you have a powerful friend, don't you?
Please be specific.
The one that you wanted to stop and see the night we were running to Gary.
Yes. Courteous.
Would he be willing to give you advice?
Presently, no. He made that clear during our last encounter. Since I am not part of the tower, and as of right now, I have committed crimes against the tower. The only advice he gave me was to seek allies from outside of the tower, and that he could not be of any assistance.
Well, that's
Yeah.
kind of funny. I'm not saying that that's exactly what Miriam would think, but having put one and one together to get the illustrious number of 11, she knows that the Seneschal mentioned that the only reason why it was possible for them to make their tithings was because they still had support on the city government. He made sure that they were aware that due to their support of members on the government, they were able to be accepted and the deal was able to be maintained.
Miriam will quirk her eyebrow. Like, that's kind of funny. Because when the Seneschal was here, he implied that we still had friends on the council.
I just realized I was muted. Is that so?
That is apparently the reason he was willing to come in and negotiate with us. As to the spirit world, would Blue have any insights?
He might, but Blue is currently at the Admiral, where he has made his home. So he's not present for me to ask.
Despite the fact that she is making a phone call when Lucio says that, her brow quirks and she looks at him because she knows some of what was promised to make that happen.
If we do still have the support of members of the council, we can assume Critias might be one of them. What do you suggest then?
I suppose it wouldn't hurt to reach out and ask for advice. Worst he's going to say is no.
The moment that it escapes Miriam's lips, Lucia remembers what he did to a member of the wolf pack. Lucia remembers watching as several members of the class never survived the class that they were attending. Lucia remembers exactly how destructive Critias can be when motivated by something as simple as a peak of annoyance.
You've never met the guy, have you?
No.
You never took his class. You don't know what he is capable of. And what the worst thing is when it comes to him.
Yes, I presume he's big and scary like most elders are.
And speaking of most elders, the phone finally connects. Several transfers later, and even without there being a Skype or a FaceTime, anything, Hestia can imagine exactly what's happening. She knows where that phone is because she can hear the quiet of the room. She knows what that room smells like, the color of the carpet, the color of the drapes, and how many acolytes will be flitting in and out and disappearing into the dark corners of the chantry house as the receiver is picked up. You imagine those lightly wrinkled, well-used hands, the wide knuckles, the deep-set eyes, the heterochromia causing his left eye to look considerably bluer than brown, less hazel. The long, comfortable-looking velour jacket that he uses inside the chantry, his cane ever present at hand, even including inside the chantry. Him motioning to some acolyte across the room to have the lights dimmed because he finds it more comfortable to hold conversations in that light. And then his voice. Disable here.
I don't know how this is supposed to go with current state of things, but
Well, typically when calling
sure
one, we begin with the minor niceties of I state my name and you state yours. And then we launch into a conversation meaningful of nothing on the surface where much truth and a parlay of sorts happens, at which point we dive further into the conversation to the heart of the reason behind your call. Perhaps one or two reports on my part to drag that information forward sooner, to which you finally acquiesce, and we dive to the heart of this particular call. Would you like to try again? Should I hang up, or will we just dive in where we probably are in the pace of this particular conversation?
she can't help herself but to chuckle, because in the scheme of all the things that are going on in her life, the fact that he is still very much the same kind of tickles her a little bit. I apologize, Regents. Ensemble, it's Hestia.
Yes, former Regent Green. Though the former part is considerably unofficial.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts so much.
Well, your allegiance is solely to the Hakata now, the family. It would not do to have a Hakata as an actual regent of our chantry, would it?
Actually, I've heard some things about a certain member of the Hakata that you are working quite closely with, but I suppose that's none of my business, as I am no longer, at this moment, a member of the chantry, correct?
It is unofficial. We have not properly de-attuned you to all that we might have, but yes, you are under the purview of the Hakata. And even as we might potentially use mercenaries to accomplish certain goals, does that mean that they are actually part of us? Oftentimes, making allies of your enemies is the best course of action. In fact, it is the only prescribed course of action.
That lesson, very much so tonight. I have learned that lesson. Anyway, my reason for calling. I will not make you drag it from me this evening. As a... It's bothering... Out of character, it's bothering her to say this because she knows what Sophia just did, but she's having to keep that under her hat. So it's like, Urgh! But as a representative of the Hecata at the current, my handler, Miss Rossi, now Rossellini, actually, would like a meeting with you if possible at soonest availability. Apparently she has something she wishes to speak with you about and might be of some interest to you, as far as I can tell. She didn't tell me what the details were, but that she needed to speak with you. So I am reaching out in an attempt to set this up.
I was hoping that would be the reason for your call. It is perfectly acceptable and amenable that we should meet. Are you aware of the 3 Happiness restaurant on Wentworth and 22nd?
Oh no. Yes, I am very much aware of 3 Happiness.
We, in order to better assuage some concerns and renew certain pacts and treaties, we will be there nearly first thing tomorrow evening. It is a time of renewal, so of course other businesses might be handled there in the most non-aligned area. Neutral ground for all parties, save of course those who reside in Chinatown and New Cambodia on the north side, but it is by far the best location. We will be there, myself, Sanjay, Erichto, and several other members of the Chantry. So, neutral territory, a newly rebuilt location, and the opportunity of going forward into the night with some semblance of amenable, transactional understanding of one another. Is that a deal? Excellent. I'll see you there. In the meantime, I was wondering, as your particular chantry within the whole seems to be in a bit of flux, there's quite a lot of energy, excess wattage being thrown off from your area. Is there something you might like to offer that we might be able to assist you? I'm sorry, I don't usually do small talk. This is the smallest things get. Matters of complete and total destruction of the city.
Who is destroying the city?
Well, considering what purposes your domain and haven operate as, any flux there brings attention. Any and as I am the regent of regions and you are unofficially soon to be a former regent but presently a regent, it is our interest, after all. Without Sylvia completely this side of the shroud, we do need all the assistance we might can garner in keeping the borders and boundaries secure. The half-state they are in is of no real use, especially being as those malicious thin bloods manage to keep moving where she resides. What ties her here before we have the opportunity of bringing her fully back into the fold, even having been victimized into second death, there is a certain pernicious strength to her. So yes, what might we do to assist your for of course, a small cost, nothing too predatory. But we'll see each other tomorrow night, so there's no reason for us to quibble over cost just yet.
I
1 hour after sunset, of course. Give everyone time and travel time to arrive.
just one small question.
Of course.
If I were to wish to unattune somebody from something that they attune themselves to, how would I go about doing so?
Oh, that is a significant cost. But that's a little above this particular conversation. And what are you offering in regards to such apocryphal knowledge?
Well, I can't say for sure, as I don't know which way it's going to go. But there might be a chance that, well, knowledge given to me that is rightfully mine might not be lost entirely to you yet.
Oh, would you please stop? I'm sorry. The acolytes have unfortunately grown It's hard to describe, but we've recently updated the technology here in the Chantry. They are utilizing the travel typewriters of yore. It's a Royale, and they are able to type certain things, and they've grown accustomed and in love with it being here where it is. But unfortunately, it causes quite the clatter. So I look forward to speaking with you at your leisure tomorrow evening. If I may offer one suggestion.
Please do.
When negotiating, always do so from a position of power or perceived power, but never ever wield that power. It will make others dislike you. It makes it far easier to negotiate from a position of what best helps both parties. All or nothing seldom works. But all the same, I will look forward to seeing you all tomorrow evening, an hour after sunset, at the Three Happiness. It is a lovely building after the remodeling. It's amazing. It seems as if some anarchs had caused quite the ruckus there earlier last year. This year, time is a fleeting thing. Good evening.
Tomorrow, then. And she carefully hangs up and looks at Lucio. I don't know how much of that you heard.
I heard your half of the conversation.
Three Happiness tomorrow after sunset.
Oh, fucking hell.
They rebuilt it. It's brand new, and there will be renewals of things. But he agreed to see Sophia. So I'm going to, you know what I think I'm going to do? Because otherwise, I might want to strangle somebody. I'm going to pretend that we don't know what actually happened here tonight. Best I can. And if I do, it's an Oscar-worthy performance. Because otherwise, I don't know what else to do. But I think if I can be given back my regent status, which I have not lost yet, then he will help me unattune her from the shelter.
Can't you just text her?
I'm going to text her that the meeting has been set, yes. So Hess will do that. She texts Sophia, hey, Dusable said meet him at the Three Happiness tomorrow just past dusk to discuss business and renewals. And leave it at that. And then she still kind of wanted to call the number she got from the person who actually holds the contract that owns the shelter and see if he knows anything or what his idea about this whole situation is.
There's a lot. And in an attempt to maximize the last few vestiges of the night, Hestia overreaches. There's a level of multitasking that is unfortunately diminishing returns. Hitting that wall is far sooner of an action than expected. And as dawn threatens, with Sophia settling in with a lovely decanted bottle of Wraith's Vitae, it is not quite just ectoplasm. It is a strange amalgam and paroxysm of kindred vitae and Wraith essence, and their corpuses somehow combined into this surprisingly hearty wine-esque liqueur. So it starts off really, really saccharinely sweet, immediately, almost instantaneously mellowing with hints of hops, swelling and swirling with a backbite of citrus, and diving down in with deep mouth-filling red. All in all, it is 2 steps short of umami, 2 steps short of everything one would need for a divine meal, and absolutely delicious. You can see various places where a little mellowing here, maybe increasing the surprise hint of that note there, would take it above its notch, or take it to the mountaintop. But for what it is in first experiences, it is absolutely delicious. There's something calming about how great it tastes, especially as it is clear to Sophia that Felix, for all of his soft romantic ideals with View and how when you last left him, is very much a predator of all things living and deceased. There is none of the cajoling that she's witnessed with other members of the family of the dead. There's no bartering from a weaker position. There is a domineering demand, and those spirits, those wraiths released to make their own decisions, are hunted down if they choose otherwise. He very much is a kindred's kindred. And much the same for the coterie, settling in the haven, texts fired off, meetings agreed to, and all of the pressures of what lay ahead, sitting fully in their laps, realized for probably the first time all the many missteps, all the many things that could have done, or did have done, or would have done, or any mixture of the two, and where that leaves them in the now. all too soon. Dawn threatens all too soon. Tomorrow is here. And much like the crash of light breaking night into 1,000 small pieces of nothing, I bid you all adieu and look forward to seeing you all next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, all.